Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about the new Weezer album. It's their fifth or sixth at this point, I'm not even sure, self-titled album, aka the Black Album. Weezer are a legendary Los Angeles-based pop rock and alternative rock band. They took off in the early 90s, you know the story, and by now, what can I say about their first two albums that hasn't already been said? Their Blue album is a pop rock masterpiece. There were legendary singles like Buddy Holly and Say It Ain't So, and some of the deeper cuts were even better, like The World Has Turned and Left Me Here and Only in Dreams. 1996's Pinkerton, just as iconic. You know the story. Rivers went away for a little while, came back with a much mature album that's probably a whole lot better written, but a little less catchy at points. Not like that's a bad thing, though. But Weezer went downhill seriously fast in the early 2000s. Once again, you know this story. 2001's Green album was hastily thrown together, even though it took 6 years to come out. Maladroit is a complete waste of time, and still to this day, Make Believe is an absolute steaming pile of garbage. The Red album is an absolute travesty of pop nonsense. And I've seen more class on a Kids Bop album than there is on Ratitude. Interestingly enough, though, on almost every one of these awful albums, there are usually one or two really fantastic songs, and at the end of the day, it's always sort of made me have a little bit of faith in Weezer. Point is, the songwriting and pop sensibility was still there, but I always kind of felt like Weezer was holding back for a while. That all changed in 2010 with Hurley. Now, at this point, I had given up completely with Weezer. And this isn't a perfect album, it's far from it. But Weezer here sounded completely rejuvenated, like they were really having fun writing music again. And 2014's Everything Will Be Alright in the End was even more so, with fantastic tracks like Back to the Shack and Elegy to a Rock Band, which is literally one of my favorite Weezer songs ever. Once again, not perfect, but it did remind me of everything that I once loved about Weezer. And not for nothing, but in 2016 they dropped the rock album of the year with their White album, which literally I did not enjoy a rock album more than that for that entire year, something I thought was impossible. But then they threw that all out the window with 2017's Pacific Daydream. This was the culmination once again of everything that had been building up for years. It is a terrible, not catchy at all pop rock album. So if you haven't guessed, my relationship with Weezer over the years has been very rocky. However, I did have a lot of hope for this album because I have certainly enjoyed a lot of the singles. Let's chat about this. This album starts off with Can't Knock the Hustle. And right off the bat, this is clearly not your original organic Weezer sound. No, this is clearly still Weezer operating in all things pop. But honestly, for a pop tune from Weezer, this isn't bad at all. It's genuinely catchy, and that hook is beefy as hell. And between those soulful backing vocals and those horns that pop in, there are some great little details here. I mean, as long as you just kind of realize that this isn't the Weezer that you grew up with, there's no reason why you can't enjoy a track like this. But in a really weird way, there still is a grittiness to this track, which I kind of have to attribute to Dave Sitek's production. It's still not exactly where I want to hear Weezer, but as far as the poppier side of their sound goes, this isn't bad. And Zombie Bastards is even better. Honestly, it's a freaking blast. Now, this is a serious left turn. I mean, we get some vocal sampling here from Weezer, something that they've never really touched before, but it's really interesting little twist. But it ends up adding to the genuine campiness to this track, and weirdly enough, there's also a sense of innocence in here, a serious sense of nostalgia. Pretty straightforward track, it's very glistening once again, but it's the sort of mindless, or in this case, completely brainless fun that I really can enjoy from Weezer. But I do have to say, while I'm not crazy about this album overall, I am intrigued by the way that this is literally the exact polar opposite of what they were doing with the White album. Then we get High as a Kite. Weirdly enough, there is a really strong underlying theme throughout this entire album of drug use, and heavy at that. Not too sure why though, it's very interesting though, and going into this album I actually thought that this was the weakest single, and to be honest I still do, but it has grown on me, mostly because at the end of the day, good God, Rivers can just really write a catchy, airy pop hook. But even with this very heavy sense of drug use throughout the album, there's a strange sense of innocence. Once again, it's really weird. Once again, though, for the poppier side of Weezer, this isn't bad. And I really don't have anything bad at all to say about living in LA. Like, don't get me wrong, this is still super pristine, no edge in sight, but whoever taught Rivers how to perform a pop hook, they did an amazing job. It still has a sort of nocturnal edge. I could picture the boys from Weezer driving around in some late night city with all kinds of lights flashing to this track. It certainly does have an edge in Weezer's own sort of way. It's a much more grown-up sound for Weezer, and it's obviously strange because they are grown up by this point, but still. Now, miraculously, up until this point, there really hasn't been anything cheesy. Yet. Don't worry, we're gonna get to that. Too Many Thoughts in My Head is easily the most upbeat track of the bunch, something that I actually didn't even realize that we weren't getting a lot of. But this track is average at best, and it's a shame because this instrumental is super colorful, super interesting. Once again, we do get some underlying themes of drug use, and in this case, paranoia. Still really don't know what's going into that. And sure, this one does have a big, glorious hook, but everything else about this track is just very average to me. Things just continue to go downhill really fast. Like, the Prince Who Wanted Everything has absolutely no soul to it whatsoever. Like, I don't know what's going on in this second half of the album, but out of nowhere, I can't grip onto anything anymore. We haven't even gotten to some of the worst tracks yet. Rivers' performance here is easily his most boring here. And lyric-wise, I feel like I'm listening to the culmination of just everything bad that Weezer's done in the last 15 years. Like, if this is them coming down from their high, I'm just gonna really wait for them to smoke again. With Byzantine, I'm like completely out of patience. Like this album at this point has just completely derailed. I really, at the end of the day, don't mind Weezer going for a poppier sound. But the fact of the matter is there is no soul on this track. There is no heart whatsoever. Like, we're getting to the point where these tracks aren't even catchy anymore, not even close. This track is literally elevator music, and that's not what I showed up for. And Piece of Cake, my god, one of the most cringeworthy tracks I've heard all year. Weezer over the years have done some fine, slower tunes. This is not one of them. This is an abomination. It's just this very confusing, criminally awkward ballad that I can't find any redeeming qualities about. As a matter of fact, it's the worst track here by far. And this chorus, I feel like it's times like this that Weezer have just lost all credibility altogether. But shockingly, the boys really do pull off an amazing finale with California Snow. Like, as far as a pop sound goes for Weezer, this is a home run. They should be really pulling off tracks like this. I love just how glistening these synths come off, and to be honest, I really love how genuinely hip most of this track is. Like, if they want to update their sound, look no further. It's got some great synths, the chorus is just so overwhelmingly catchy, and most importantly, it just seems like it's coming so natural to Weezer. I honestly hope that we hear more of this in the future. So overall, I was disappointed with this album. I thought a lot of the singles were great. I still think a lot of the singles are great. But still, I feel like Weezer start albums strong these days, but really can't come full circle with them. Like, to be honest, when this album is on, they're pulling off some of their better pop tunes ever, to be honest. Like, if they could really wrap this up in a big way and just make a concrete album from start to finish, like they did with the White Album a few years ago, I would have no problem giving this a great review. But for now, I'm feeling like a strong 6 to the lightest of light 7s imaginable. But let me know what you guys think down below. Leave a comment and subscribe if you liked the video, and let me know down below what music you'd like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.